My first question is, I mean, given it's a kind of culturally iconic piece of art, and it has huge sets and an actor playing three different characters.
Yeah.
This is not
Why would you
not
do
an
it?
obvious contender
Yeah.
to adapt for stage. So whose idea was that, and why?
Well, the idea actually came from not us, from the producers, Patrick Miles and David Luff, who are here, I think. And so they had pretty recently produced Network on stage, another brilliant film. Mm-hmm. And I think they've been trying for quite a number of years with the Kubrick estate to get the rights to do Dr Strangelove, and their success that they had with Network meant that finally the Kubrick estate said, yeah, okay, you can have a go.
And it's the first time that Kubrick's work has been taken to stage, right?
Adapted for anything, really.
Right.
Adapted for any other medium. Yes, it is the first time, which I'm glad I didn't know when I agreed to do it. But no, I have agreed to do it. I'm pleased.
Have you agreed to do it?
I have agreed to do it.
And did you? So I was explaining to the audience earlier that I curated the last retrospective of films of Kubrick back in 2019. And once I'd made the decision to do it myself, I suddenly woke up the next morning feeling like, oh, what have I done? The sense of responsibility, and there's a kind of intimidating feeling because you're dealing with these canonical, classic pieces of art. Did you grapple with that, the responsibility?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, because it's sort of Holy Grail or poison chalice. So you have to think: is that a good thing to do? Is it something you can properly make something new of, while being completely? I always say this: when you're adapting something, I think you have to be completely faithful and utterly promiscuous, so that you have to have that sense that you're. I think for me, ultimately, the tone of the film is very, very unique. That it's, and that's the thing we've concentrated on really bringing to the stage properly. But it has to be a night at the theatre. So it's going to be new. It's going to be different, while retaining, we hope, everything that people love from the film.
It's the practicalities also. If you boil down the dialogue in the film, it comes to about 45 minutes because there's a lot of wordless sequences of the flight and the arming that and so naturally you have to add dialogue, and then also comes the added really theatrical problem, which is how do you have one person? It's fine, Peter Sellers could turn up one week as Mandrake and another week as President Muffley and so on. But live on stage, how do you have one person making these switches instantaneously?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. So
that was one of the things that I thought would make it a great show.
Yeah.
Is that damn well, somewhere damn well that Peter Sellers is going off set. He goes, get the new makeup on, comes on, we shoot a new sequence with another character. On stage, it has to happen right before your eyes, within instance that he's Muffley and then he's Mandrake. Yeah. So that already suggests to me a sort of bravura quality to an evening at the theatre, to this telling of this particular story.
And what also has is, as you saw there, it's a feel-good movie, really, isn't it? It's, so you want that in the West End. But it's fundamentally three different sets.
Yeah.
It's the war room, it's Ripper's office, and it's the plane. Yeah. And the other stuff is
army base.
Army base, but fundamentally it's three. So that already can enrich you in three different identifiable sets on stage.
So I wanted to dig into that a little bit. So how on earth are you doing it in a live context? Also, when you make a film.
I don't know. I mean, I've got a clue.
Obviously, Sellers did three there, and obviously we're not going to do that because it's impossible. So Steve's actually going to do 4 characters in the show.
And this is because originally, when Columbia Pictures were developing it with Stanley Kubrick, They'd just done Lolita, and Sellers had played multiple characters in that. And they wanted him to do the 4, so they wanted him to play the Slim Pickens character.
Yes, on the plane. And I think in the end he said, I just can't do it.
I think he sprained his ankle or something, and he couldn't work in the set.
Yes.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
So he's going to do the 4.
Yeah, Steve's going to do the 4. He's going to do the 4.
Crazier then.
And not as Peter Sellers, if you see what I mean. And
I was going to ask that as well.
As Sean was saying, we have to approach it remembering what is it about the film that makes it special and makes us so passionate about it. But, what is what will we bring to it as a new experience, because it's going to be a live experience, it's going to be on the stage. How do we tell the story in front of your eyes rather than on the screen? So, and I think we all instinctively thought, we don't want to be doing an impression of Peter Sellers doing that character. Yeah. It's like, what does Steve Coogan want to do with that character?
As you very kindly said, I have done a number of these film to stage adaptations. I did The Lady Killers, absolutely classic Ealing comedy where Peter Capaldi played the Alec Guinness role. He didn't play it as Alec Guinness. He played it as Peter Capaldi doing that part. Yeah. And that's exactly right. You couldn't possibly, it would be a dead experience for everyone. You need to see that actor interpret those characters in the way they're going to do it. And that was a similar, although completely different, because everything's completely different, but that was a similar experience, is that there are people who love The Lady Killers who came along and said, I've experienced seeing The Lady Killers on stage, even though probably around 75% of the script was completely different. But they felt that they'd got the experience of seeing The Lady Killers.
And has that then meant that it's been kind of a challenge for Steve? Because Peter Sellers occupies those characters so consummately and brilliantly and in such a entertaining way. Yeah. Has it been quite difficult for him to move away from doing this?
I'm going to give a political answer, which is that's for him to say. But no, because, if anyone alive can do that, it's him. I've had the privilege of being able to watching over the last 30 years and see how he just inhabits a character. As soon as the voice emerges, it's not just the voice, it's this physical mannerisms, it's the rhythm of speech. Everything just changes. He really gets into the character, becomes a three-dimensional. When we were writing Alan Partridge, it was like having Alan Partridge in the room 12 hours a day for months on end. Drove me absolutely spare. But,
even when you weren't writing
even
it.
when we're not writing. Alan, stop. And he does that, and we're still in the middle of rehearsals at the moment, but seeing these characters suddenly come alive and be very distinctive. It's not just the physical challenge of taking this hat off and putting those trousers. It's a different person who then emerges in the next scene. That's the challenge, but that's the unique talent he has.
Well, I'm sure we all can't wait to see how that's actually going to manifest. It's really intriguing.
Me too.
Going back to the film, Armando, you have what I can only describe as a kind of gift for prescience and writing, deeply satirical material, which then at some point in the future becomes either true or so close to the truth that it doesn't perhaps feel as funny as it did. My question is, when did you start working on this? Because obviously I went to watch it again a couple of nights ago, and that very morning the news was Putin rattling the saber about the nuclear bomb.
It was a couple of years ago, actually, when you got in touch with me. In fact, you've been getting in touch with me for about 6 months saying...
I should explain. Yeah. So Armando and I have known each other for a very, very long time, but never worked together. I went into theatre and you went into film and TV. And but when this project arrived kind of on my in tray, I went, oh God, there is only one person to work on with this on the adaptation. And so I rang Armando and you were extremely busy, as always, and said, yeah, no, I'll get back to you.
Because you didn't mention what it was.
I didn't mention what it was.
Had to be very circumspect because it was all on the radar. So I was just getting these enigmatic texts and emails and whatever saying, got something to talk about. And it went on for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And then
I kept saying to the producers, no, he's a nice guy. Honestly, he will get back to me.
And a break in filming was, I thought, yeah, I must get back to Sean. I rang you and you just went, we've got the rights to adapt Dr Strangelove. Would you like to co-write it? And I just went, yes. And it was like that quick, you know. And if only I'd known what it was 6 months previous. And it was only afterwards that, you know, as you put the phone down and start thinking about it, you think, oh my God, it's Dr Strangelove. You know, it's. But I'm glad, you know, we committed to it early. And yes, when we were originally writing it, we kind of thought that, you know, the nuclear theme was a kind of metaphor for global warming, for, you know, 101 other doomsday scenarios when we started writing it. But actually, over the last year, it's no longer a metaphor, it's literal. We're back to the Russian president being a little bit mad and talking about nuclear weapons in a kind of very casual way. And how one little mistake someone might make somewhere could set the whole thing off. So here we are again, which is testimony to Kubrick's kind of prescience and his ability to, you know, make, to tell stories that just last forever, you know, that you can always take something from at any point when you watch them.
It is completely uncanny, the timing of it. And so it opens on the 8th of October. It's now the 26th of September. So where are you at? What's your current position?
What are you driving at?
How's it feeling? Are you feeling like you've got a hit on your hands? Or are you feeling like you're still a long way to go? Or
every day in rehearsal, I can guarantee you think this is going to be the greatest show ever known to humankind. And you also think it's a pile of shit. So that's the process of creating something, is that's going on all the time. But I do think, I mean, I hope that everyone who loves the film will recognise not only the route, but that we've been true to the spirit and we deliver the film in a certain way on stage. But also, can you believe it? There are people who don't know the film. So we need to speak to those as well. And we need to give them a great time in the theatre, and we need to give them a great show. And I think we will.
I think we might be programming it a bit here, just in our rep programming, just so that we can scoop up all of those younger people who haven't seen it.
Yes. You know, I'm hopeful that in terms of this stuff that's been added, it's in the spirit of the originals, so that hopefully, if you know the film but may not have seen it for, like, I don't know, 10 years or so, you might go home thinking, was that in the film or was that new? That's you know, it should feel that voice has been maintained.
And the way that theatre works is you want to run. You want to run and run, as they say.
Yeah.
So I imagine, listening to the way you're describing it come together, I imagine it's be quite sort of physically demanding on Steve.
It's going to be you know, and I think, I believe actually that people seeing the show will not only appreciate, hopefully, the material, the performances, not just of Steve, we've got amazing other actors in it as well. Is the actual physical feat. That's the thing of theatre. It is live. You are watching them do it. And the amazing physical feat that he's going to go through every night will be applauded, as well as his performance, I'm sure, because you know, that's what he's going to deliver. That's already clear.
And the other thing you appreciate, you know, watching it again and again and again live, is the story is it's a farce, but it's played in sort of slow motion, and then it gradually gathers steam. But right from the very start, with the computer papers and taking the call and whatever, it's a classic farce, yet all of that plot element and that structure is buried, obviously, under the kind of the heightened realism and the performance and the style and the shots and the tone. But if you analyze the story, it's a very well-constructed, you know, this mistake leads to that mistake, which leads to that error, which results in this, but if we do that, then, you know, the mislogic that keeps escalating throughout, takes you at the end. You've seen the process of how we got to the end right from the start. Well, it's an interesting film because it's both very real. It feels at parts like a documentary. You know, the handheld cameras in the plane and the shots of them just putting, just arming the weapons and pressure, shot like a kind of almost verite style. So there's that realism, and yet there's this heightened artificiality about it. The kind of expressionist sets and the lighting and the black and white, I think, is part of that as well. So all the way through the film, you're being asked, do you find this real or do you find this artificial? And actually, it's when the story escalates, you're pulled into the story. It's almost like you're being, and the fact that there's one person playing 3 different characters. How much artifice can you bring into a medium that's normally reliant on being very naturalistic and so on. So it's almost like, Kubrick's challenging you to believe this, and when you go, yes, I do believe it. It's all the more powerful for that reason. It's like no matter how much you don't want to believe it, you realise that this could happen.
It's worth saying in relation to that, I think, is that when Kubrick was first writing it,
it was going to be a straight drama.
He wrote it as a straight drama. And then he thought, no audience can survive this. No audience could get through this story without it being, and also the sort of absurdity of the intellectualizations of mutually assured destruction, etc. How do we portray that? So he named it, I think, a nightmare comedy.
Yeah, that's right.
And so he sort of felt that he had to make it a comedy. I don't know why it relates to that, but it did in my mind.
He felt like the only way you can tell the story is through the absurd. But also, there are moments in the film that I thought he had invented, like the opening. Was it Pieces Our Profession?
Oh, it's real, isn't it? Yeah.
Outside on the that's real.
It's real.
I saw in the archives the photograph of the army base with Pieces.
Yeah, they have that on the army base.
Yeah. So it's like he's saying, no, actually, I don't have to invent. No. What's out there is absurd enough as it is. Which isn't like today, where everything is sensible.
All above board. And
everything's been sorted since then, so that's great.
I think what I've done, because I have done it a few times, I think what I do is watch the original source material a lot, really a lot, and then try and forget it. So that you absolutely have it there, but you have to liberate yourself and say, we're also doing a new thing. Because I think, it's not a, I mean, this happens a lot, of course. Books are made into films, and films are made into stage plays, and stage plays are made into films, and, that's sort of normal, but you have to, if you're going to go on that journey, you have to absolutely love the material, because you have to spend a lot of time with it. And then 2, you have to be, I don't know if it's brave, but I mean, you have to sort of say, I'm also going to do a new thing. And that's kind of the process, I think.
Because otherwise it becomes like a kind of vase that is so precious that you've put it in a box and no one can touch it, and it's not about that. It's about saying, actually, we think this relates to now, that this story and what, inspired us from watching the film is something that we can tell and bring a new audience to. And hopefully they'll then go and, appreciate the film all the more. But it's not being so precious about it that you can't feel you can add to it or extend it or develop it or respond to it as well. But also we had the joy of actually going back and seeing earlier drafts of the scripts and discarded material. And there wherever I've been stuck in a moment, I've kind of gone back and looked at, and there's in an earlier draft here and there's a little phrase or something. I think, we'll use that because that's clearly in the spirit of how it was written, and it just does the job for we're looking at here, you know. So there will be bits that are from old drafts that have kind of found a new life in certain moments as well.
Is it set in the same?
Yes, it's the same
60s?
story,
Yeah.
but again, you know, with one eye, as it were, on to where we are now. So it's not got lots of modern references, but there's just an awareness of things that, if it's said then, will actually ring true now at the same time.
Well, the story. The story's incredible. The story's, I mean, it's just absolutely, I think, an extraordinary comedy, as Arma's just said, a kind of a farce, definitely. There's a mistake made that is compounded, and then we go on and on and on and on. And that's really the sort of progression, that's the fun, I hope, that people will have with the show, is seeing that story told, and seeing that story told live in front of them. We've mentioned the sort of bravura quality of somebody playing 4 characters in an evening. So there's that. There's the moving between the sets, which we can't do. There was just because we worked in different mediums, there was a great moment when we were writing together, and Armando said, well, can't we have just can't we go inside the fuselage of the B-52 and see, you know, the whole of the rest of the flight team? And I said, well, where would we put the fuselage of the B-52 in the Noel Coward Theatre? And so we can't do that, but we can see the cockpit, we can see the, you know, so it's a different way of storytelling that is hopefully enjoyable and exciting in its own way.
And there's something about the liveness of it, actually. You know, having sat in some of the rehearsals and just actually being in the room with the big round table and the big board.
I was going to ask.
Squiggly lines and the, you know, just seeing it there. So it's not on the screen now, you're actually in it. You're watching it in real time.
Yeah.
They're making the decisions. The phone's going. You know, there's something kind of both exciting and frightening when that happens.
I was going to ask, alongside Kubrick's creative genius, there is Ken Adam in the film.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you adopted the aesthetic?
Oh yeah, we've ripped everything off. No, we've been working with a very brilliant theatre designer called Hildegard Bexler, who has not recreated, again, the same thing, gone, how can we present this story by drawing on what is there and presenting it in a new way, in a way that, I mean, the key thing in theatre is, like, particularly with adapting films, is that in films you can cut, you can go anywhere. You can go 100 million years in the future on a cut.
Yes.
But you can't in the theatre. You've got to literally shift sets around, and actors have to go over there instead of being there, and all the rest of it. So,
yes, you could. In film, you can throw a bone up in the air. Again, you're in a spaceship, comes down.
there you go.
But what Ken Adam didn't have to do is make the war room then move so
On
that
wheels.
you know, and turn itself into an office, and then turn itself into you know, that's the kind of the additional challenge that I think people appreciate when they watch it happening in front of them as well.
Yeah, I think it's part of the fun of watching a theatre show. Should be, for me anyway, there's sort of all the elements being used to tell the story.
Well, with that, I think we're out of time. So I'm going to thank Armando Iannucci and Sean Foley. The show opens on the 8th of October at the Noel Coward Theatre. So if you haven't booked already, go online and book. And I hope you really enjoy it. And keep an eye on our listings, so we might put a few cheeky screenings in again.
Fantastic.
Thanks very much.
Thanks. Thank you very much.